Hello, my name is Abby and I am the Talking Book Librarian. Thank you for joining us for our book talk series for 2025. These videos will be recorded and out on the Indiana State Library's YouTube channel, as well as the Talking Book Facebook page. The purpose of these book talks is to provide book ideas for book clubs and to include questions for you to answer for yourself or in a book club setting. These videos will remain online as long as YouTube exists, so you can decide to read these books whenever you'd like. If you are interested in this book or any of the others, please give the Talking Book employees a call at 800-622-4970. Feel free to pause the video at any time to answer any of these questions. The book we will be discussing today is called James by Percival Everett. So this is kind of just a little overview of what James is. On the right, I have a little picture of the black book cover with James in gold. And then, of course, his name, Percival Everett, is in white at the bottom. And this book is about a brilliant reimagining of Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, both harrowing and satirical, told from the enslaved Jim's point of view. When Jim overhears that he is about to be sold to a man in New Orleans, separated from his wife and daughter forever, he runs away until he can formulate a plan. Meanwhile, Huck has faked his own death to escape his violent father. As all readers of American literature know, thus begins the dangerous and transcendent journey by raft down the Mississippi River toward the elusive and unreliable promise of the free states and beyond. Brimming with nuanced humor and lacerating observations that have made Everett a literary icon, this brilliant and tender novel radically illuminates Jim's agency, intelligence, and compassion as never before. James is destined to be a major publishing event and a cornerstone of 21st century American literature. And then a little bit about the author. So Percival L. Everett, born 1956, is an American writer and distinguished professor of English at the University of Southern California. The Washington Post has called Everett one of the most adventurously experimental of modern American novelists. And according to the Boston Globe, he's literature's NASCAR champion, going flat out, narrowly avoiding one seemingly inevitable crash, only to steer straight for the next. Everett, who teaches courses in creative writing, American studies, and critical theory, says he writes about what interests him, which explains his prolific output and the range of subjects he has tackled. He also describes himself as a demanding teacher who learns from his students as much as they learn from him. Everett's writing has earned him the PEN USA 2006 Literary Award for his 2005 novel, Wounded, the Academy Award for Literature of the American Academy of Arts and Letters, and the Hurston Wright Legacy Award for his novel, Erasure, the PEN Oakland Josephine Miles Award for Excellence in Literature for a short story collection, and the New American Writing Award for his novel, Zulus. He has served as a judge for, among others, the 1997 National Book Award for Fiction and the PEN Faulkner Award for Fiction in 1991. So he's done a lot. And now we will get into a few of the discussion questions. The first discussion question is, James is a retelling of Mark Twain's 1885 novel, Adventures of a Huckleberry Finn, which is widely regarded as a classic work of American literature. Have you read Adventures of Huckleberry Finn before? How does Everett subvert Twain's original text? Did this reimagination change your perspective on the original novel? Twain is well known for his satirical writing. Where does Everett use humor and satire in James? What social and cultural conditions does the novel's satire mock or critique? Reflect on Jim's narration. Why does he switch between vernacular and standardized English? How does this code switching affect your reading experience? Describe Huck's role in the story. How does Jim's fugitive status, as well as race, color, class, age, and education, influence the relationship between the two characters? James depicts the brutalities of slavery, particularly the violence inflicted upon enslaved women and girls, throughout the stories of Sadie, Lizzie, Sammy, and Katie. What are the unique threats that these characters must navigate? How does Jim react to the gendered violence that he encounters? Return to Jim's travels with the minstrel group. What does the novel say about the performance of race? How do blackface minstrels and racial passing complicate or undermine racial classification? Can all the characters be seen as performers of race? Jim's quest for freedom parallels his quest for literacy. Discuss the key moments on his journey to writing his own story. What are the texts that he studies? Who are the characters who give him the tools and encouragement to write? James references authors William Wells Browning, composer Daniel Decatur Emmett, and philosophers John Locke, Jacques Rousseau, and Voltaire. Consider researching these figures on your own. How do they influence your understanding of the historical period? Discuss the use of religion and superstition in the story. Were you surprised by Jim's revelation in Chapter 1 of Part 3? Returning to earlier passages, can you identify any moments of foreshadowing from Everett? How would you characterize Huck's reaction? Have you ever learned something shocking about your family's history? James features an ensemble of fugitive and enslaved characters. How does Everett affirm the humanity of these characters in his writing? Was there one who was particularly memorable to you? The Mississippi River is central to the landscape of the novel. What is the role of the river? How did it shape the political landscape of the region and the events of the novel? Reflect on the title, James. What's the significance of Jim renaming himself? Why do you think Everett chose to title the novel in this way? What was your reaction to the novel's ending? What do you think the future holds for James and his family? After reading James, can you think of another character from a classic text that you would like to read as the narrator of their own story? And that ends the discussion questions. Also, the Penguin Random House, who I got this from, does have some recommended readings. So if you liked James and want to read more like James, or also about the Black experience, or have a narrator of, maybe just a different person in general, God's Country, also by Percival Everett, is a choice. The Good Lord Bird by James McBride. Washington Black by S.E. Edugian. Pudd'nhead Wilson by Mark Twain, a classic. The Water Dancer by Ta-Nehisi Coates. The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead, which I have read and is very good. Passing by Nella Larson. And Caucasia by Danzy Senna. Those are all recommended readings that are similar to James. And of course, I got those questions from the Penguin Random House website, who are the people that published James. So they also included a couple of questions and recommended readings on their website. So that's where I got those from. Now I will just share a little bit of my own thoughts on this book. I read this book last year, near the end of winter, maybe. And I thought it was amazing. I was so surprised. I never would have picked the book based on the cover because it's just a black cover with gold writing on it. It's kind of boring. There's no pictures. So I thought, well, it's getting really good reviews. Let me give it a chance. I picked it up, and I can honestly say that I think I enjoyed that much more than even reading Huckleberry Finn way back in the day. I think I read it in middle school or high school, and of course, nobody wants to read books that they give you in high school because they might be classics, they might be a little confusing, the wording's weird. Luckily, James took care of all of that. I got to use a lot of my knowledge of reading Huckleberry Finn a long time ago, and comparing that to, of course, this new James, but having it from James' perspective, just added so much more to the story than reading it from a child's perspective. It is very much more an adult book. I don't think I would want to just give this to a small child and say, this is Huckleberry Finn. It's not. It's a little more adult. It also includes a little bit more background into what they went through while they were going down the Mississippi. I really enjoyed it. I can't recommend it enough for anybody that if you liked Huck Finn, this is a great book to read. If you didn't like Huck Finn, this is also a good book to read because it adds a lot more to the experience of the slaves and the people that are involved in the slavery. And it just gives a more rounded and I think a better picture of what life was like way back when in the 1800s. So I definitely recommend it. You should definitely pick it up or pick up any of the others of Percival Everett's. I haven't read any others yet, but I do plan on it. So highly recommend. And then we will be back, I believe, in September for a horror novel called, I think, Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose. So keep tuned in for that, and we'll see you back in September. Thank you, guys.